Here we are on the front of our Dutchman Colorado 24 BHC. We're going to go through a technical walkthrough and where all our components are located, a little bit of how they work. If you want more specific information on these particular brands or other brands, look in our helpful hacks section and look for more videos concerning that. So we're going to start in our front here. We have our 7-way plug. Our 7-way plug is going to transfer lights to all our brake lights, blinkers, and running lights. And we also have a charge line on here that will charge our battery while we're traveling down the road and we have it plugged in. We also have our 12-volt breakaway right there. That breakaway is if our hitch ever fails. When we're towing our unit, that pin will pull out and it will stop the brakes on our unit. We also have our powered tongue jack. We have a LED light on the front, on-off switch there, and we have our function for up and down. This is a 12-volt operated jack. If we follow this wire down over to our battery, we will find an inline blade fuse on there. We need to check that fuse in the event that this jack isn't working. Make sure that it is not blown. We also need to check our battery voltage and make sure that it is charged up properly. In the event that this goes bad, we do have a rubber plug on the top here. We remove that rubber plug and we can insert our crank handle and we can manually run that jack up and down. Behind that we have our dual propane tanks with our dual propane regulator. That propane regulator is an auto changeover, which means if one tank empties out and the other one has gas in it, it will automatically swap over to that tank and we can go ahead and replace it and fill it back up. Behind that we have our mount for our battery, and we also have some 12-volt resettable breakers under there. Those resettable breakers are auto reset, so they'll heat up, trip, and then reset on their own in the event we are having amperage problems. Here on the driver's side of our unit, in our pass-through compartment here, we are prepped for an inverter system. Inverter system changes 12 volts to 110. In the event we are dry camping, we don't have somewhere to plug in, that's when that inverter would come into effect, and we would also want to add some batteries so we have enough juice to be able to run stuff for a longer period of time. So the wiring is already prepped in there. You would have to purchase the inverter and have it installed. We are also pre-wired for a solar controller. Solar controller, if we were to add solar panels, we could use that solar controller to charge our batteries off of solar power. That controller is used to change the voltage from that solar panel to a charging voltage for our 12-volt battery. Out here we have our furnace cover. This cover is to give us access to the furnace for technicians. Just know that whenever that furnace is running, it will be exhausting some hot air out of that exhaust. Here we have our city water connection. Our city water connection can be hooked up to a hose bib at the campground or your house. You can put a filter on it in line if you wish. We hook that water hose up to here, we turn that water on, and it is going to provide water to our fixtures on the interior of our unit. As we move back, we have our 30-amp twist lock receptacle. It can be pulled out by simply twisting left and pulled out. To reinstall, you'll make sure that your blades are lined up appropriately. Push in, twist right, and then we have that little retainer ring we want to put on there as well to make sure that that plug doesn't come out. Now, a couple of things you need to remember when plugging in your unit. Before you plug in that twist lock plug, don't have it plugged into the receptacle at the campground. We don't want any power arcing in between those connections right there. And we also want to make sure that our appliances are off in our unit before we finally do make that connection to the campground so we don't cause any surges on our appliances. Up here we have our range vent hood. This is for over our stovetop. If we want to vent out, we have to come out here and just pop that hood open so we can exhaust that air out. Whenever you're done using it on your camping trip, simply pop it back in, and that will prevent any insects or animals from building a nest in that vent. Down here we have our dump station for our unit. We have our gray valve signified by the gray handle, our black valve signified by the black handle. That is for our gray tank and our black tank. Our gray tank holds our shower and sink water, and our black tank holds our toilet and sewage, all right? So our gray tank, if we are hooked up to a sewer hose and we have a dump station at the campsite, we can leave our gray tank open all the time so we don't have to keep coming out and dumping it every time. We can leave it open and allow it to drain into that drain. Our black tank, however, we only want to dump it once it is full. The reason being is we want to leave water in that tank, otherwise we will turn out to what's called a dry tank, and all the debris and sewage that's in there will dry up, damage that tank, and it's going to have to be replaced. So keep that valve closed until it's either full or you're done with your camping trip and you're ready to dump. Make sure you have your hose connection hooked up and then pull that valve. This will begin to dump everything out of that tank, and then we can use our black tank flush connection, which is located on the back side of the unit. We'll show you that location here in a minute. We'll hook a water hose up to that black tank flush, and it's like a little jet inside the tank that's going to spray and knock down any debris or anything that's in it and push it down to the opening of this tank to flush it out. Now, this won't get everything out of that system, so I always suggest once you're done flushing out, you're still going to have some unfortunate small debris and everything in there. Close that valve off. You want to put a couple of gallons of water in there and then pour your chemical in through your toilet. You can add that water by either using your black tank flush hose or just hold down the foot pedal on your toilet. Regardless, leave several gallons of water in that tank so it can help slosh around while you're driving, and it won't allow any of that debris to dry up and harden. So, plus the chemical will help degrade any stuff in there too. So when we're done, close that valve, add a couple gallons of water. Our gray tank we can leave open all the time and allow it to drain out. Just close it whenever we're done. We also have two lines right here. We have a blue line and a red line. These are our low point drains. This is if we're ever preparing for winterization, want to drain the unit of any water in the system. We open these valves and it will drain the water out of all of our lines. Up here we have our coax for cable, and this is for if we have park cable. If we have coax at the park, we run that coax to there and we can go on the interior, hook the coax from there to the TV, and we can scan for cable channels. On the back of our unit, of course, we have our tire, and it is mounted on our bumper right here. Our bumper has some caps on the end. We can pull those caps off, and then it makes great storage for our sewer hose. So we don't have to get our front compartment all nasty, and we clean that sewer hose out, store it in there, and we can put that cap back on. We also have our Furrion tankless water heater. This is a propane appliance. It will give you on-demand hot water for your system. We also have our freshwater connection right here. Our freshwater connection is if we don't have a city water connection where we're going, we're dry camping. So it's onboard water. We take a water hose, we stick it in here, and we start to fill it up. And we monitor our panel on the inside for fresh tank, and we see wherever that level is, and we shut it off on it. We get it to where we want it. We remove our hose, and we put our cap back on, and we have onboard water. This is supplied by a 12-volt pump, which the switch is on the inside by that control panel. You'll flip it on, and it'll provide water from that tank to all of our fixtures in our unit. We will find a drain on the back right corner in the underbelly for our fresh tank system when we want to drain it out. Next thing on the rear of our unit is our black tank flush. Our black tank flush, as you recall, goes with our tank systems, and it will flush out that black tank which carries all of our sewage, right? So this is where we'll hook that water hose up to drain and flush that system out. Up top we have our backup camera system. This is a wireless camera system that will hook to a monitor, and you can monitor what's behind you whenever you're backing up. Now, we don't have roof access, no ladder on this Colorado, so you would have to get an A-frame ladder or whatever you choose to get to access that roof, or have it brought to a shop to be checked out. We do need to check the sealants on our roof. We also need to check the rubber on it. We're looking for any drying, peeling, cracking, scratches, holes, or anything in that rubber from hitting tree limbs. All the sealant up there needs to be checked for all these things, and we need to check and reseal our unit every 60 to 90 days. This is customer responsibility. It's considered customer maintenance. And we also need to check around all of our windows, our appliances, all of our fixtures, our trim down the sides. We also have silicone there, and we need to check and use the appropriate sealant on our roof and our sides in order to keep up with our maintenance. If we don't do this and we allow water to get in, manufacturers are not going to cover this under the manufacturer warranty. So we need to make sure we are doing our maintenance, just like changing the oil in your car, keep up with the sealants on your unit so we don't allow any water into our system. On the passenger side of our unit, of course, we have another compartment door for our pass-through storage, as well as a light in there, operational by a push button on the light. We have a button right here, extend and retract. This is for our stabilizer jacks that we have located underneath. These are a 12-volt operated unit. They are used to stabilize our unit. They're not used to level it, so we shouldn't overcrank them and put a bunch of weight on them, because they will cave in and they will break, and that is going to be customer pay, not manufacturer warranty. So how do we level our unit? Well, we get some stacker blocks, we put them under our wheels, and we adjust from there as we pull up one of those blocks to get our unit leveled left to right. We use our front jack to level our unit from front to back. Then you extend these jacks down to touch the ground and just a pinch more, just to add some weight to them, and you're going to do the same to the rear. And when I say add weight, I just mean a little bit. This is just to go ahead and put pressure on those jacks, and once again it will reduce the amount of movement in the unit when somebody's walking in it. It's not for leveling. Now these do have an override on them if the motor were ever to fail or we don't have 12 volts for whatever reason. We'll take a look at that now. It's on the other side. So here we are back on the driver's side of our unit, opposite of our motor in and our switch, and we have this handle. We can see this handle has a little slice in it, and it will line up with the post on that jack. We line it up and we can manually run that jack up and down if we need to. As we move down the passenger side of our unit, we'll see we have our awning. Our awning is 12 volt powered with a motor on it, opened by the push of a button and retracted the same way. We also have our porch lights, our awning lights, also 12 volt component. Now, things about our awning that we need to know. If we ever leave our unit for an extended period of time, we want to make sure we roll that awning in and secure it, because we never know what's going to happen whenever we're out and about. So this is to avoid any wind, rain, so on and so forth. If you do see rain coming in or you had to have some high winds, roll that awning in. If there's any damage due to anything like that, manufacturers are not going to cover that under warranty. It will become an insurance claim and it will be customer pay. So make sure that you take care to roll it in when there's any danger of it getting damaged. Another thing that we need to do as soon as we roll our awning out is we need to pitch it. You can do it in the front or the rear, and it's pretty easy. We pull down this arm and we have a little turn handle right here. We're going to turn that little knob and we're going to lock it in, and now we have our awning pitched to the front. Like I said, we could pitch it to the back if we want, but we want it pitched one way or another to allow runoff. Now the runoff is generally going to come from your AC. That AC has condensation. It's going to run down onto that awning and run off at the angle that you pitch it at. It's also going to be light dew, maybe a mist in the air, whatever, any water that gets on there, we want it to run off. Once again, I use that lightly. If it's raining, roll it in. It's a sunshade only, not meant to deter rain. What can happen is enough water can build up on this awning and it will create a puddle in the middle and that awning will collapse. So try not to allow any water to get up there. Once again, this is strictly for AC runoff and any light dew. When we want to retract our awning, we want to loosen this knob and allow that arm to extend back up and straighten out our awning so we can roll it back in. Our entry door has friction controlled hinges. Those hinges will make this door feel a little bit restrained when we open and close it, a little bit of resistance there. That's perfectly normal. It does this so we don't have to put latches on here to keep that door from flying open with the wind. So here we have our screen door. Our screen door can be pulled off. Just pull that lever right there. We can close it, and we also have our bug shield for the door as well. If we want to open that and lock it back in, simple as closing it up against our door. We also have our entry steps here. Our entry steps have one hinge point, and then we have to lift it and slide it in on the track of the frame. To pull it out, grab the handle at the bottom, lift and pull, and handle on the top to drop it down. Want to make sure we lubricate those hinge points on our steps. Don't use WD-40, use like a silicone spray. This won't attract as much dirt and dust that you'll end up picking up while you're traveling down the road. To my right here we have an outdoor receptacle. This outdoor receptacle is GFCI protected, which which means ground fault circuit interrupt. In the event that this outlet is not working, you're going to want to go to your main GFCI outlet. That'll be on the inside of the unit. We'll touch on that when we go to the interior. But you'll reset that outlet and it should produce power back to that outlet. Moving back towards the rear of our unit, we have our other compartment back here, once again with a magnetic latch to keep it open. And we have another set of 12-volt stabilizer jacks, just like we talked about in the front. They are stabilizers only, not leveling jacks. As we walk into our entry door to our left, we can see our convenience center. Our convenience center has our battery meter, our fresh tank meter, our black tank, and our gray tank. Now this is a generic panel and it's going to have multiple gray tanks on it. Your unit only has one gray tank, so keep that in mind. That gray 2 is not going to mean anything whenever it is lit up. So as our tanks fill, this meter will fill as well. This DSI fault light right here is a generic light as well. You have the Furrion tankless water heater and it will not relate to this light. Here we have our awning extend and retract switch to run our awning. We have our exterior lights, which is for our awning lights, and we have our interior lights for our interior lights. This water pump right here will go to our freshwater tank. Our freshwater tank is the one that we filled up outside for this fresh meter right here, and that will supply water to our faucets whenever we are dry camping. If we are hooked to a city water connection, turn that pump off. There's no need to have it on. Of course, we have our sofa. Our sofa can be laid down into a bed by picking up that bottom end in order to put it back into the couch. Want to lift up on the back half first, and then the bottom, and slide it back into position. On our wall here, we have our Furrion tankless water heater system. This is a gas operated component as well as our furnace. It's suggested that you go to the stove top and you go ahead and get any air out of your system before you operate these to avoid going into any fault. We'll go over that when we get to the stovetop. First, we'll hit on our Furrion water heater here. Easy operation, turn it off and on. We hold down that little button for a second. Our power indicator will identify that our power is on. We have our Fahrenheit and Celsius degree mark right there. If we want to swap from one to the other, we hit this button in the bottom right. Our flame icon right here will indicate when the flame and water heater is active. This will only be active when we turn our hot water on. This is letting us know that the flame is lit and the water is heating, and we will begin to display the temperature of the water during that period as it heats up. Now, if this flame doesn't indicate when we are running our hot water, obviously we have a problem. We'll need to look into that. We can control our set temperature by hitting our up and down arrows right here and put it to whatever temperature we would like. Once again, an on-demand heater. It will take a quick second to heat up that water and get to the faucet, but it will run as long as you need it and provide you with hot water. Now, these do have a shut off of about 20 minutes, automatically shutting the system off in order to reinitiate. If you're running the water that long, is turn the hot water off and turn it back on. Down below, we have our Suburban furnace. This is, once again, a gas operated system. We saw the outside of it out there. In order to activate, simply just slide that hammer down to the warmer section. That furnace will kick on and light. And when we want it to cool off or shut down, we slide it all the way to the left. This will give us our current indoor temperature down here at the bottom. In our kitchen area, we have our standard microwave. We also have that vent for our stove top with a 12-volt fan and 12-volt light right here. We need to open that vent on the outside to make sure that air can exhaust out. Close it whenever we are storing our unit to ensure that we don't have any insects or rodents that get into that vent system. Here we have our stovetop. We have a glass cover. This glass cover needs to be down in travel so that glass does not fall and break. When in use, we go ahead and roll that up, and then we can initiate our burner top. To initiate, we can choose our indicator right here at the bottom as to which one we're going to use. We turn that knob to high, and then we activate our igniter. We hit that igniter and we'll be able to see it try to spark on all three of the burners. Only one that's going to light is our one that we have on. Now, I talked about earlier on any of our other gas appliances, we want to bleed the air out of the lines. If we took our unit out of storage or we just replaced the tanks on the front of our unit, we're going to end up with air in the system if we shut the propane off during that period. So what we want to do is come to our stove top first and just light that burner. It's going to take several clicks for it to light because you're purging the air out of that system. Once it lights, let it run for about 30 to 60 seconds until you have that nice clear blue flame on the stovetop burner. Once that's done, then go operate any gas appliance you want. This helps ensure that you're not going to run across any faults. Now your oven right below it is still going to take a little time to light. It's suggested maybe use a long stem lighter to light it for the first time after you bled that air out. After that, you can go straight to your igniter and it should light up pretty quick. But it's still going to take some time to burn that air out of the system. To initiate your oven, you're going to use your knob to the right, turn it to that flame icon right there, and you're going to push it down, and you're going to continue to turn that igniter knob until the pilot lights. Once it lights, you still hold your knob down for about 30 seconds. You're waiting for that thermocouple to warm up. Once it warms up, you can turn it to your proper degree mark that you wish. And then your burner tube should go ahead and light up. If it didn't light up, go back to the flame icon, relight that pilot, and allow it to still warm up before you initiate that temperature mark. Here we have our 12-volt refrigerator. This may not be the brand you have. All of them are pretty commonly the same. It's going to work off of 12 volts, so that's your battery system. And we have on-off button on the inside, and we have our settings 1 through 5 as far as how cold we want that unit. The important thing to remember about our refrigerators is that we have to defrost them. They do not have drain tubes in the freezer or refrigerator, so once we are done camping, we want to defrost that freezer and get all the water out of here. These are airtight gaskets, not watertight. So if you leave frozen water, water in here, it's going to leak out and it's going to damage our wood components around our refrigerator, and that's not a warrantable claim. So make sure we are wiping all that down, defrosting it properly, wipe down our refrigerator as well. This also helps reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew to occur in our refrigerator. Down here at the bottom, we have our COLP detector that will alarm us of any gases that we need to be aware of that may leak in our unit. This does go off. We need to exit our unit safely and have it checked out. Now we do need to test this once a month and hold down that button, make sure that alarm is still buzzing. These do have a expiration date. If not on the front of it, you'd have to take this off and it'll be stamped on the back side. It's about every 5 years or so they do need to be changed out. When you clean these, you just want to dust it off. You don't want to spray any chemicals on it because that can provide some false alarms on that system. To the left of it, we have our breaker panel. This is where our 110 breakers are for any of our components inside the unit. And we also have our 12 volts. It's all labeled here what components these operate. So if you have any issues with either one of those items, you want to come here first and check and see if your component is labeled in here. Our air conditioner system is controlled from our ceiling assembly right here. This is the only place where cool air is going to come out because it is not a ducted unit. It will come out the sides there. We have our option right here. In order to operate our AC, we'll turn it all the way to the fan high or low, whatever fan speed you choose, and our thermostat will need to be turned to the cool dial. If we want heat, we go to our furnace. This is not going to have the heat in here. You can buy an aftermarket heating element and install it in there to use that heat option. We also have some vents down here that can disperse out the bottom, and our side vents to disperse out the sides. This is our return air. It does have a little screen in here to help protect from any hair, dust, and debris going in there. And you do need to clean that every now and again as well. So here is our coax plate coming in from our outside cable mounted up here where we can mount our inside TV. We have 2 buttons on here. One is for our antenna power. We can go ahead and turn that one off whenever we are searching for cable channels on our TV. When we want antenna channels or air channels, we want it on. So it will send a 12-volt boost to our antenna, allowing us to catch more channels in the area. Our light will indicate whether it's off or on. We also have another button on here. This is for our Wi-Fi. If we upgraded to the 4G LTE WineGuard Wi-Fi system, this would turn that system off and on to either amplify Wi-Fi or receive Wi-Fi from that cell phone provider, which is also another upgradable option. Our table can be folded down into a bed by lifting it up. You remove your 2 poles out of the bottom of it, and they have some tabs right here that this table lays down on, and we can take our cushions and add them for more bed area. To reinstall your cushions, lift your table up, reinsert your post in the brackets on the table and the floor, and you have your table back. So here we are in our bathroom, fairly cut and dry. Of course, we have our shower right here. We do have a shower head on here that has an on-off switch. What this is used for is if we are dry camping. Of course, we only have so much water in our fresh tank. We can only put so much water in our gray tank because we're not hooked to a dump station. So in order to conserve water, we can either choose to shut off our faucet from right here, or we can just shut it off at our shower head, and we don't have to work with those fixtures to try to find that warm water spot again. We can just shut it off by hitting that switch right there. Now, I will tell you, the first burst of water, whenever you turn it back on, will be slightly cold, but within a second, that warm water will be coming back through. Now, our toilet is a RV toilet. In order to operate, of course, number one, use it and dump it. And you can dump it by the little lever down here at the base of that toilet. Now, if we're doing number two, we're putting solids in there. We barely push that pedal down, and we want to fill this bowl with water. The reason we do that is once we flush, those solids can actually go down the pipe properly because there's enough water in the bowl to push it down. If we don't do that, it could cause some clogging issues in our RV system. We also only want to use RV toilet paper, no other toilet paper besides RV toilet paper, because RV toilet paper will degrade properly in our system. And we also want to pour chemical in our tanks or use the solid chemicals, whatever you wish. Put them in our tank and whenever we store our unit or during the process of using it, whatever you choose. Over by our sink, we do have our GFCI receptacle. This is our main receptacle. This receptacle has two buttons on it. One is our test button and one is our reset button. If we were to hit that test button, the little green light is going to go off on it, and we hit our reset button, it will reset. Now, when we test it, it shuts off power to all our GFCI protected outlets, and when we reset it, it reestablishes that power. Now, if these outlets were ever to trip on their own because of over amperage or outlets getting wet or anything like that, then that is going to trip on its own, and that green light's going to go out and issuing you a fault. At that point, we need to hit that reset switch to reestablish power to that outlet. So here we are in our bedroom. Our bedroom has storage under our bed in the front area. We also have our hookup for our TV in here. We have our backer where our TV can be mounted. And we also have that coax port and a 110 outlet to hook up the TV.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.